just put a link to my channel underneath your videos?
Yeah, I will. I will do that. Anyway, we're here today with Bazz again, who is the Self-Preservation Society. So, hello, Bazz.
Hello, Karen.
Yeah, it's been a few weeks since we've talked, and I was just explaining to you your video's done really well on my channel. That's really good. On the BITCHUTE Channel, it's done really well. And I've got your page up, and you were just going to talk about things. I said, if you die before you die, you will not die when you die.
Yeah, I've spoke about this before in terms of a personal experience, and my first anipi or sweat lodge ceremony in 1989. I'm still learning about it, but I'd done spiritual development circles up to then from '84, but nothing could have prepared me for a nippy ceremony, and it is a cleansing, purification, and a rebirthing ceremony. Certainly when it's done right anyway, and I was fortunate enough to be under the guidance and stewardship of a man called Bert Inglis, who's an absolutely amazing man. I often talk about him on my channel, especially in a much earlier broadcast, my journey and some of the people on it. But that nippy ceremony that I experienced is, I can't really put into words what happened, but I knew it was a powerful, powerful thing. And the object is, like I say, cleanse, purify, and it's a rebirthing ceremony. And, it's just something that I'd done, but if we die or allow that to die within us while we're consciously awakened and or consciously aware of it, seek to unlearn all that we've learned, etc., etc., and start to live again with a greater awareness and knowing. It's just that, probably the best representation of that is a girl I first knew as Karen when I first started doing my uploads on BitChute a couple of years back. In the first year, she started listening to me, and we had lots and lots of conversations on the phone, and we still do. But there was a period when we didn't talk, and when we did start speaking again in November of last year, she emailed me after watching my broadcast on 11/11 last year. One of the things she said to me was that she had changed her name by deed poll. Without going into her story too much, what she'd done was created a new reality under her terms for her. So she put to sleep, put to death, if you like, all that she'd been carrying around with her all her life, dealt with it, done the shadow work, and created a new self, a new reality, a new name under her terms, this, that, and the other. And I often talk about this on my channel, this sort of thing. We have that power to change. Karen changed her name to Freya, and a lot more beside, but it's standing in your own power. And indeed, that lad today, what my upload today is based upon, a lot of people think suicide or taking your own life is cowardice. I don't subscribe to that thought. I think that is the one time one truly expresses one's own power and takes control of the self.
The only thing with that way, though, is that obviously when anybody dies, someone else has got to sort it out. So when you kill yourself, someone else has definitely got to sort it out. That's the
He
bad
hasn't
bit.
killed himself. He hasn't killed himself. Death is an illusion. There is no death.
He's
There's
just
only
in another
transmutation.
dimension, isn't he? He's in another dimension, that's all.
That's right. And this is, I cannot stress this point enough. Those that are left behind, yes, I speak about them, and all those that are left behind when somebody
It's
passes.
our pain, isn't it? It's our grief. It's not anybody else's.
That's right. And I've often said, nobody ever grieves for somebody that has gone. They grieve for themselves because they haven't got that physical connection with that person anymore. And that's part of the program or part of the fear and the ignorance that we live under. Death is the greatest illusion that mankind lives under. We're fighting to what we think is to stay alive. No, we're just fighting to carry on living. That lad today now knows what it is to live, because he is free of, to a greater or lesser degree, of the physical
bombardment.
All of that. He has now done what the caterpillar does. He's become a butterfly. His vibrations are completely different to what they was while he was here, and he's coming to a greater awareness, and not least of which because he has stood in his own power. So many people today are moving on because of the jab. They're in so much fear of dying, they've had the jab in order that it may carry on living, and it's taken their mortal incarnation. This bloke hasn't died or passed from anybody else's intercession but his own. He has stood in his own power and said, I've had enough of this shit, if you'll pardon the expression.
An ex-brother, like in the past when I was married, someone's brother did that. He killed himself. It's a bit upsetting at the time.
Well, I talk about in this upload today, where I sit now, looking out my window, I see the white Shakespeare Cliffs. And a former partner of mine, through no fault of mine, jumped off those cliffs. And I make the point today that what nature has done now to ease my pain is I cannot see the point she jumped off anymore because the trees have grown up.
Oh. Right.
I know it's still there, and if I was to walk up the cliffs, I would find it. But sitting where I am in my house, nature has protected me from that traumatic experience by trees growing up, and the symbolism or the medicine of trees is strength. So,
did it sort of bring back a few memories for you today then, really?
Yeah, it does. And it's very rare that I don't think about her, and it will be very rare that I won't think about him, because he was a beautiful lad. And I say when they were teenagers, I used to have him and loads of others in my house so they wasn't annoying people on the estate, and I'd teach them Native American songs, this, that, and the other. And when I sort of met up with him again 20 years ago, when I started going out after my separation and divorce, him and others like him embraced me when they see me out, showed me respect and gratitude for what I'd done for them when they was in their formative teenage years, and it was very humbling, very humbling.
Yeah, I get that. Are you still there? Oh, you're still there. You all right?
Yeah, I'm all right, yeah.
I wasn't expecting you to be upset today. I don't mean that in a funny way. But life throws you these things, doesn't it? One way or another. I had a few friends I found out that had died, and for a few weeks I was a bit shocked because they're only a few years older than me, and you see their faces, and One of them, they found him 2 weeks later, and the other one had a clot. And she just got married. And she wasn't feeling very well. And then as everybody was racing to her, she died. She'd only been in her early 60s.
Yeah. But, I've long been of the view, well, since September 1984, that there is no death. There is only transmutation. And, the older I get, the more I learn, the more I become aware,
I don't know how it works when people take their lives. I had a book and it said, it's downstairs somewhere, it says, if you're still alive, your mission on earth isn't over.
If you're still alive and living, but if you live, which you do, then your mission in the universe isn't over. It's a very blinkered approach, and trust me, I speak from growing awareness and experience. I would have agreed with that point in the past, but with the awareness that has come to me from its roots that were and foundations that were set in spiritualism, I look back now and everything's part of the learning process, and those
We're human and we have feelings, and even if it's our own pain, things still hurt. And when someone dies, it's always another bit closer to your own, isn't it? It's always a reminder all the time.
I will make the point again, Karen, and please don't think I'm being
only to transmute, I mean, but most of us don't really know what that is yet, do we? We live here.
Because we're dominated by the indoctrination of the program through schooling, etc., and we're controlled by our fear, and I talk about that a lot, a bit in this upload, and our fears, especially in the context of what's going on today, our fears are more than ever about hating our fellow man, however he or she looks. We're taught to hate them, and I'll make the point today, if you can't love another human being, at least don't hate them. And
I think we probably touched on this when we last talked, and maybe to some people it might sound silly, but we should walk around sort of, hi, I love you, everything should be full of those words, and we don't do that enough anymore, do we? We don't even, I care about you, or give us a hug, touch these people. We don't touch each other, we don't talk to each other, we just don't, we don't do those things so much anymore. Some of us do, but a lot of people don't.
Yeah, well, you raise a really good point, because we've been, not just today, but we have been through incarnation after incarnation, we're being dehumanized. That which we are in Lakesh, in you I see another me, speaks volumes.
Do you think that when you wake up and you realise that it's not what you thought it was, and all that changes you, if you know who you are, it changes everything again. It just changes your outlook, everything.
Indeed it does, and when you wake up, or you don't wake up, you start to awaken. I don't consider myself awake. I'm awakening, and I'm awakening, I like to think, every day, because new awarenesses are coming to me. But when you do, it starts a journey, and, my journey is nearly 40 years, but, and I look back upon it, and especially in the context of today, talking about that lad going back, I don't know, 25 years or so, maybe a bit more.
And that's the other thing with our memories. I think that when you look back, where things are now, like you said, 20 years old, they could almost be yesterday in your brain.
Yeah.
And I think that's the bit that probably upsets us, because you see all those bits, they're like memories that come up, and they're years ago though, but when you think of them, they're like they're yesterday. So I think that's the bit that upsets you a bit, because you see all these little visions, or that's what happened with my friends. You know, I could see them, I could hear their voices, and I was like, oh, this is awful. I never said goodbye to them. You know, anyway, it's the way it goes sometimes, isn't it?
Well, you just reminded me of a point. In the Lakota language, there is no word for goodbye because there are no goodbyes. Just because you're not seeing somebody the next day, the next year, or for 10 years, does not mean there is separation. At some point or other, you will come back together again, whether it be in this vibrational reality or, when you've transcended this. There's no word for goodbye in the Lakota language. And, when I think about that in the context of our language is designed to put spells on us and control us. The Lakota language was far, far greater than what ours was. What little I know about it. No word for goodbye, because there's no such thing as goodbye. Interesting point.
You shouldn't even say hello, should you? Because that's hell.
That's right. That's right.
We live in this very mysterious world where, I mean, if we did say that word, hello, it doesn't mean to us what it really means. But that's the word. It's hell.
That's right.
Hell, hell. Everybody's just saying hell.
It's designed to cast a spell on you through mainly our ignorance. I use the word bless to, make that point. If you say it phonetically, bless, it's be less. So when you think you're saying something nice to someone, it's actually a word that's designed to cast a spell on them that they have less.
Yeah, I did, like at one point, there's loads of people doing etymology on the channel, and it was really good fun. And one day I thought, the psychotherapist is the rapist.
Yeah.
It's like, if only we really took notice of the words we say. I try not to say that hello one anymore. I have to go, hey, hi. I have to remember not to say it because it's built into you, isn't it? It's what we've said a long time, and it didn't mean what they mean it by. But yeah, you just got to. I think once you wake up and you realise that, you start using words differently, don't you? And people like you, and I know others, they become very articulate and they know exactly every word they're saying.
Well, I still make mistakes, but I try to think, about what I'm saying and the way I'm saying it. I often say to people on the channel, get an etymology dictionary in your bookmarks, this, that, and the other. And I spoke about it a while back, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks back. Psychology, I looked that up in an etymology dictionary, and it's the study of the soul.
Oh.
Yeah. Psychology is the study of the soul.
Yeah, and how can they really do that?
Well,
you can't exactly put like a pin or anything on what a soul is. You can't touch it.
Well, you can understand how the soul works individually, and when you bring that information into a collective, they use it against us to control us, because ultimately, for me, it's all about the soul that they're after. When I say they, I mean the dark, demonic, satanic, spiritual forces, whether they be physical.
Something? When I was closed off, the world, in a way, even though it was whatever it is, because it is manic and mad, but it was more simple. And then when you wake up, it's not simple anymore. In fact, it's 100 times worse.
Well,
if you know what I mean. I mean, in this world, I mean, in this reality, not you or me and people like us, but out there. It's just...
You know why? Because you have an emotional attachment to it. And I say to people, you can still empathise with somebody's pain without being emotionally attached to it. That's one of the worst things that we do, is become emotionally attached to things, not only within ourselves but outside of ourselves. And those that rule us, they feast upon that.
Do you consider yourself to be an empath?
Oh yeah.
So it's hard not to, though, when you're an empath. I'm an empath. I feel other people's feelings, and sometimes that's what upsets me, is I feel their pain.
Well, you know what I've learned to do, and I was speaking to, in actual fact, I was speaking to a girl.
Other people might not realise it when they're empaths. They're actually picking up on all this other pain, people's pain. People don't realise what they say and what they do. They don't know. They don't care, do they? Most people, but yeah.
No, I was talking to a girl from America on Skype last week or the week before. She emailed me after listening to my broadcast, wanted to chat, and we had a chat. And in the context of the conversation me and her were having, I said this to her. I said, you can still empathise with those around you without having the emotional attachment. I said, because that's what brings you down, and that's what those demons, etc., physical or non-physical, you know, feast upon. You can still empathise and care without being emotionally attached to whatever that person is going through or whatever's going on in the world. That's what feeds them.
Thing is, you and people like you and me and others, I just think for this place that we're in, the nicest, the best thing for everybody and everything to do is you've got to learn who you are as a person. You've got to understand yourself and not be afraid of yourself. Because then you make different decisions, and then hopefully you wake up even more. But you'll make different decisions because you're not hovering. I don't know yet. Oh, I don't know. Oh, I'll put it off. I'll do it next week. You know, when you know who you are, decisions aren't a problem.
I often say to people, in order to try and do this, stand in front of the mirror and just look deep into your own eyes, you know, and find your soul within.
Yeah, my poem, right? A line in it is, the eyes are the window into your soul.
Yeah.
I think your eyes is the window somehow. That's the window, is your eyes. Without a
shadow of a doubt. Without a shadow of a doubt. And, you know, that's why I say to people to do that. And I do it quite often. And when I'm doing it, I also ask myself if I'm doing enough. Not just for me, but for everybody. And
you can't, you know, I as an empath, you want the world all fluffy and nice for everybody. And it doesn't quite happen like that, does it? But we all want to help everybody, don't we? That's what an empath does. They want everybody to be happy, loving, and whatever.
Indeed.
That's what an empath wants.
That's what drives
me. And then empaths gravitate to each other as well.
I think you're absolutely right. You know, by their deeds you will know them. Equally, by their energy you will know them. You know, and
you know, sometimes you get a false impression, don't you, where you think you know someone, and then over a few months you get to know them and you realise they're not the person you thought they were.
That's right. Yeah,
that's what happens when you make friends and things. I think there are either people more like you, where I don't know what it's like. You're at the same place, same time. I wish that everybody was more awake, because then they would get things differently. But if you're going to watch that television and be looking at that every day, all day long, they're never going to learn anything.
No, not at all. Well, they will. They'll learn how to be a more compliant slave.
But, you know, is this what happens to people, where we don't know where we've come from, we don't know where we're going, in a way, and we don't know what we're living on? We don't know any of these things. It probably makes a group of people, maybe lots of people don't care because they think they're on something else, but I don't know. I still got the same questions today as I did have 6 years ago, and I've learned so much stuff. But there's still like every time you go into something, there's another 100 legs to it, and then when you get to one of those legs, there's another 100, and it goes on and on. And even though you've got more information, you've got more, or some of it happens by accident, doesn't it?
Yeah. There's more questions than answers.
And sometimes it's just by tweaking a word, it changes everything, and you go, "Oh yeah, I get it now."
Yeah.
But I got to know who I was in my 20s, and it was really important because a marriage had broken down, and it was just a hole in there. So I started doing psychology, that's the word. Started doing that, and I got to know who I was. And you have to almost relive everything. You need to go back to that. You need to go and pick yourself up, and no one else is going to look after you. Only you can do it. And quite often the people behind didn't do things very well either. So you need to sort of pick yourself up. You're going to love you, so you can do it. And everything starts changing. It just does. When you start becoming more responsible for yourself.
Yeah, indeed. You're absolutely right.
But you know what? To some people, they might go, "Oh, that's deep," and whatever it is. But I just think it's one of the best things you can do for mankind is learn who you are.
Without a shadow of a doubt. Without a shadow of a doubt.
But a lot of people don't. And, for me, it just started off this sort of, like a can went poof. It was a can of baked beans, and all the baked beans came out. It just happened one day, and then everything just changed. I started, I don't know, just very aware to things. I could read books very quickly. I just wanted the knowledge.
Well, I've been seeking knowledge for a great deal of my life, but what I've learned is awareness is something that I should be seeking.
Also, the big words, treat others how you wish to be treated. If we did that, everybody would be a different kind of person. The whole race would be different. Everything would be different. I think you should treat people how you wish to be treated. But a lot of people don't, do they? They just don't do it.
That's right. But where that falls short is when masochists and sadists, whatever, come into the equation, which is all part of that which controls us. And I'm not being flippant, but if somebody's a masochist, or a sadist, we've got to transcend, try and understand all that dark, shadowy stuff, cleanse it with our light.
Yeah, because, they've taught us with colours, football teams, and the whole thing. So, say, for instance, Chelsea is blue, Man United is red. You've got all these things which are put in place for you. They're part of this system. You have to get rid of them all. You have to let go of it all. Even if you still watch them a little bit or whatever it is, you kind of got to let go of it all because it's all this system they've made up. It's in everything. That's the sad bit. They couldn't let go of anything. They don't, like you say, want us to be humans, I don't think. They can't let go. Everything's got to have a problem.
You're absolutely right. They don't want us to be human because to err is to be human. And that's basically means to think, to stop, and whatever. They don't want us thinking. They don't want us stopping. They want us in infinite cycles and whatever. They don't want us in the now, in the eternal now. And,
that's what I made a video about that ages ago. That they want you lost in this broken past, and they want you fearful of the future, and it stops you being able to think about now. And you need sometimes, maybe you need to be left alone for a few hours. You need to think, and they don't give you a chance to do that because someone might turn the television on then. Oh my God, and then there's some drama on there. And it goes on, and they try and capture you every way, but you need to know who you are and not be afraid of yourself. It doesn't mean you're a perfect person. You've made mistakes, things have gone wrong, but you need to see especially who you were as a child, because often we're instilled with other people. Like, You know, if you took a child and said, "Oh, you're wonderful and lovely. Oh, yes, it wasn't your fault. That was my fault," and you treated this child and brought it up that way, you'd get one kind of child. And if you sit there with another going, "You're thick, you're stupid, you're useless, you're crap," and all that, you get another kind of child.
Mm.
And so basically, we've been instilled with all this bad stuff, and we need to deprogram. What do you call it? It will just empty the files out. We need to deprogram all this stuff out of. We've been programmed. I think that's the sad bit. We've been programmed, and the way that they're going is not nice, is it? None of it.
Well, it may be nice to some, but it's not nice for me because
it's a very materialistic ego at the moment, isn't it? It's all to do with money.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. Without a shadow of a doubt.
You can't buy love with money. And to be honest, everything you want, most things in life except for your food and shelter are free. Walking's free, talking's free, kissing's free, cuddling's free. All these things which, they're all free, but they cost you everything if you don't get things right.
Indeed.
But I suppose then you have to find more people like yourself then. If you've woken up, you're quite awake, you need to find more people like you.
Well,
and I think it's starting to happen, isn't it? Because, you know, when I talk to my daughter, all her friends, they say, "Oh, we don't watch the television." I think, thank God for that. So the younger people aren't watching television. We need to get away from that thing.
I'm pleased to hear that, but then on the other hand, you know, are they just doing what Orwell said?
Well, no, because today's society, everybody drinks, don't they? They have to be drunk, paralytic. My son is 38 now, but even he has to do it. He thinks it's a really good time when you're paralytic. So does my daughter, and they're about 10, 15 years apart. So people think drinking's one of the ways to loosen up, which it isn't. It's not a good way. Drinking's not good.
You tell your children from me to look up the origin of the word alcohol. They will find it comes from the Arabic language, and it means, in its original form, bad spirit.
Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? Because spirits are drinks.
Yeah.
The thing is, this whole thing when you're waking up, it doesn't take 5 minutes. It could take years. It could take months or years. But it's still better for you if you do it. You're not frightened of yourself. I'm quite happy and balanced. When you're not happy, everything inside's going round and round your head, your stomach, everything, you know. When you know who you are and you're quite happy in yourself, those things don't happen, do they?
No.
You know, we don't know how nervous other people live. You know, we can only live in ourselves. But some people, you know, like I would tell you, "I don't like this." I'd come out my mouth, but not everybody's like that, are they? Some people keep it inside, whereas I say it. So you all those people. I really wonder how many people have really like woken up more, or because you know when you talk to people, you get this cross section that have woken up. Is that half the population, or is it just a little bit? I'd like to know, because the way it's going right now is quite narcissistical. It's horrible. It's cruel. It's cold. It's nasty.
But you ask them about 9/11. You ask them about Tartaria, etc., or you know they don't know about that. You ask them about Tesla or Raymond Rife. They don't know about that. And people are waking up maybe to, but they're not going any deeper than that. And so I'm sorry to be a bit of a spoilsport, but that's my experience, my personal experience when I talk to people. You know.
Yeah, I think what it is, you know, like I don't know if you're aware, but the Globe Live Tour were out last week. They were wanting to talk to people about everything. They wanted to see what it was that didn't rock people's boat. And you understand with what you just mentioned, that's just one of the problems. That's only one of them. There's loads more bigger ones. And that's what people don't maybe understand. They think, oh, it's this, or oh, get rid of Boris, that'll sort it out. But it doesn't. You need the 999 to go with them.
It's not Boris or anybody else that's a problem. But in saying that, that Liz Truss is the personification of evil. I just don't like looking at that woman, but that's another point. But it's not.
My son said something today, and I just wish people would wake up to this. I think it's the guy who's I think he's Asian, I'm not sure, but he said they were filming him, and then they filmed his shoes, and he told me they was wearing these really expensive shoes. He said, "Come on, Mom, who could buy these shoes? We can't."
Yeah.
So people need to wake up and realise what they're looking at, questioning everything. Because we definitely don't live in democracy. We need to question everything.
Well, you need to question not the incumbent in the position, but the position itself. It doesn't matter who you put in the position is still there. Get rid of the position of Prime Minister, President, this, that and the other.
Yeah, we get different problems then, don't we? Because we haven't actually got anything in its place, because with that lot, with the Prime Minister and Presidents and all that, comes the corporations that run everything. So we need to, it's a big plan, isn't it? Because we need to be able to, well, it'd be lovely to think that they weren't there and we were doing it, looking after ourselves.
What we need to do individually is sacrifice all that keeps us, what we feel keeps us comfortable. And we've got to sacrifice the matrix and all that it is, not just for today, but for what is today and what will be. We've got to sacrifice our reliance and dependency upon the system that enslaves us. We've got to step out of our fear, because true freedom is simply the absence of fear. There is no death. We could bring this system down now by merely not having anything to do with it. And if we passed away through hunger, us, the person, the soul would come to know a greater awareness and know what it is to live instead of exist. And then perhaps the next time we, the soul incarnated here, we wouldn't be restored to factory settings, because that which restores us to factory settings had died because it wasn't feasting off our energy anymore, because we stepped out of the fear. It's not just about the life we live.
You know what you were talking about just before? That has split so many families up. And that's really sad. That's all they've done is help split families up. When actually it was none of their business in the first place.
That's what it's designed to do. I've said in this upload today, if you can't love another human being, then at least don't hate them. Remain neutral. And everything will change. If you can detach yourself emotionally, but still empathise, everything will change. They know this. And that's why the programme, which I have to respect, is so successful. Because we are so dependent on the system. Because we no longer know.
In a sense, it's a nanny state, isn't it? Because we go to the plastic supermarkets and get all our food. Everything's sort of provided for us. We live in a nanny state.
Exactly. And all the while, we are relying upon it, dependent upon it, because we're fearful.
But then maybe that's just showing, with everything that's happened in the last few years, that, well, empaths are still here. You can't become you either are one or you're not. You're either born like it or you're not. And for me, an empath's being very sensitive to others.
Well, I've always been sensitive, but I think it's something that you can become aware of. I don't necessarily agree with you that you have to be born with it. It's something you could become aware of.
Well, no, you don't notice it as a child, but I was like it when I was about 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I can go back in my memory now because I've worked myself out, and I can see things I did which were all to do with pleasing other people. And
Yeah,
I
I'm the
was a right
same.
little toddler then.
Yeah, I'm the same. And so I resonate with you on that point.
But then again, maybe that's what it was. It's a bit like there are now the awakening ones, or whether that's the word you want to use, or there isn't, and the rest are sheep.
yeah,
And it's horrible. As an empath, I'm starting to lose a bit of patience. I'm beginning to get a bit ratty now because, all these years you've been nice to everybody, and those people are quite nasty. And I just said, treat people as you wish to be treated. And now if people treat me in a bad way, I do it back. I've had enough.
yeah.
And I'm an
And
empath. I don't like doing it, but sometimes you push me, that's what's going to happen. Give you a bit of mouthful.
yeah, and I can completely understand that because I do the same.
Because basically what it is someone like you come across as quite a sort of quiet person, placid person, but again, pushed, maybe you're not.
If I get riled, I'm like everybody else, but I generally get riled at one or two things, either injustice or ignorance.
Yes, they are very good words for problems of today. Ignorance.
Yeah. If I see harm, loss or injury being caused to another, I get riled over that. If I see ignorance from another,
because you're only who you are with what you know. I remember someone, I don't know, I can't remember, he's a bit older than me, but he was telling me when he was a kid, no one told him about these things and he didn't know about them. Didn't know they existed, didn't know they were real. I can't remember exactly what it was now, something to do in school. I just didn't know because nobody told me. So sometimes things are like that, isn't it? Like make the schools and teach them what you want to teach them. But you're not teaching them the truth or the way it really is or how to look after yourself or be a nice person. None of those things are in there.
You've got to remember, those teachers were once students. And, one of my last teachers from my school, he started the year 1977, the year I was finishing my last year at school, Saul Webster. He went to university to study to be a history teacher. And I said to him a few years back in the town, I see him, lovely man, a lot of respect for him. I said to him, Saul, he said, yes, Barry. I said, got to ask you a question. What's that? I said, why did you never teach us about the Anunnaki? He said, the what? He said, never bloody heard of them. So he went through the school system and then continued in the university system to be indoctrinated into a program and to repeat that program. People don't know they're ignorant. And if they do, if you show them that
it's our parents were made ignorant and probably their parents were made ignorant. It's a few generations of this, call it ignorance.
No, it's ancestral. Goes back much further than that. It's ancestral, but that's the matrix, that's the program, and I have to see it for what it is and think, what a bloody good job they've made for at least the last 6,022 years. What a bloody good job they've made of controlling incarnated souls on this planet.
Yeah, I actually think that we're in some kind of boot camp, really. They just can't control us like they want to, but we're in an open-air boot camp.
It's not just here. It's throughout the universe. All these people that, think that Jesus is coming back to save us, or the Targetians, the Palladians, Arcturians, they're in the same boat as us. They're all throughout the universe. If it were not so, we wouldn't be going through what we're going here. They're in the same boat as us. I don't care what vibratory frequency they're in. The only change in the universe can only happen here in this third dimensional reality. The only change It can't happen outside of us, otherwise it would have happened, and we wouldn't be going through what we go through here, incarnation after incarnation.
Yeah, but you know, my family are a bit different to me in their thinking. They want to follow the government.
Well, they will, because the program dictates that they do, and they can't see outside, the program. That's the success of it. Those of us that can, to a greater or lesser degree, it is incumbent upon us to seek the truth, speak the truth, until the truth is felt, heard, and understood by those that do not know it. One of the greatest things I've ever heard is the quote attributed to Jesus, but it could have been Mithra or anybody else. Knowing the truth will set you free.
Yeah.
Lakota proverb, speak the truth even if your voice shakes, even if you shout. Speak the truth. Seek the truth and speak the truth. And eventually it will be heard.
You know, like when, obviously some of us are awake, but with those people that don't, they're into the phones, the television. It's all outer stuff. You've got to be happy in yourself. Once you are, everything else changes.
That's right. Everything starts with the self.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything starts with the self.
But like you said, I think sometimes, like, at one point, I made a bad decision in my life, and I lost, like, everything. I didn't have a house. My furniture was somewhere where I couldn't get it. And then when I got it all back, I just remember opening the curtains every day thinking, I'm alive. That's how I felt every morning. I'm alive. Because I wasn't alive before.
You never lost anything. It was taken from you.
You do not. One thing you can't lose. You choose not to lose the mental side. You can lose furniture and everything, but you can't lose. Anyway, that's what I felt. But I'm glad because it taught me. I had to start all over again. But it taught me. I'd rather have my mental side than the furniture. You can always get furniture.
My point is, you never lost anything that was of value to you.
That's true.
Because you're here to talk about it to me today. If it was of value, if your life, your existence depended upon it, you would still have it.
I'm just saying, sometimes when you get to almost rock bottom and you've lost nearly everything, your whole life changes again. And that bit when we put so much on material things. I was always buying bits for my house. I haven't bought anything for the house in ages. It's just not in my. I've changed my mind about what I want.
That's right. That's right. My house is very sparsely furnished. And most of what I've got, in terms of small items, is what people's given me.
Yeah, I remember you saying that before.
And yes, I'm grateful for that because then I've got a connection with them. But, I remember that teaching that Scotsman going hiking around the world, and he was in this one place and he was told there was a Sufi there and he wanted to go and see the Sufi. And so the meeting was arranged. And when he got there, at this Sufi's house, he had no furniture. And, very, very sparsely furnished little abode he had. And the Scotsman felt sorry for him. He said, where's your furniture? And the Sufi said, where's yours? He said, I'm just a tourist. And the Sufi said, so am I. So am I.
The one thing is, I mean, I don't know if I want to get rid of the things I've got, but ultimately it won't be going with me.
No.
That's why, isn't it? Because you can't take these things with you.
That's right. But the one thing I do hope, and I use that word very, very loosely, is that any material possessions I leave here will be put to good use by somebody else after I've gone, and will serve somebody else as they've served me, so that not wasted.
I just think when you start awakening, you have different. Your outlook's different. But then I'm an empath, so maybe it's just different anyway. Because I was thinking, you know, like, my mum's pretty psychic, and I actually thought that she was an empath, but I've learnt really she's not an empath. She's just psychic. And I think I'm both, a psychic and an empath. She's not like me.
I've met many psychics and mediums that have got amazing abilities to go beyond this physical third dimensional reality and communicate with that beyond it. But, you know, they do it in order that they would profit from it, especially materially, and whatever. And so I always question them. Always
you know, this
question
other
them.
dimension, I had a friend, it was years ago, and in my house, she reckoned that she could see these things in me. Anyway, later on, someone said that there's some monks walking through my house, so it could have been them. But I went out with her one night, and this bloke, I can't remember how we got even into the conversation. He must have said he was a twin, and his twin died. And at that moment, Nicola is just as sensitive as me. This shadow went over his face, and I said, "Did you see that?" And then we said to him, "We think your twin is right in you now. We can see him. We can see the shadow in you. We could see him moving over his face." Reckon his twin was there. I forgot about that. That was about 15 years ago, 20 years ago maybe.
I have the ability of transfiguration, where you see people from other realities, i.e. the spirit world or whatever, and also beyond that, you see them instead of seeing me under the right conditions. And, you know, I've been doing that for 30 years, and but I'm really empowered that you saw that in that sort of situation.
Yeah, we saw his twin in him. But you know what? You know, sorry, what were we talking about? It's gone straight out of my head now. I was just going to say something.
That bloke and his twin.
Yeah, spirit world. I've never heard a medium ever say that someone comes back. They're always, whoever is there is in spirit world. They never say, "Oh, your dad's reincarnated as your son," or anything like that. They're always on the other side or wherever it is. But I just remember watching a program. It was like a 1960s one, where this guy's trying to talk about the fourth dimension. And I don't know if you've ever seen it, but he's talking about an apple, which is in the third dimension, meets a flatlander. He can only go backwards and forwards. He can't go up and down. He can only go backwards and forwards. Everything is flat. And then he said, when the apple comes along, he gets a yearning in his stomach that he knows, and he knows things, but he can't see it or hear it, but it's in him. And he said, if the apple landed on the ground, you'd only see the very slight corners of where the apple touched, so there'd be 4 corners, but you wouldn't see the apple. And I was thinking, well, he's just explained almost what must have happened to the humans who've, well, we'll call it departed from this bit, because as they're in a higher or different dimension, they're still here, but they're just in a different dimension. If the flatlander can't see the apple, if they're in another dimension, we just can't see them.
Well, we can.
I did see the twin. You know what I mean? I mean, they're just not walking around. Yeah. They're in another dimension, so we can feel them and sense them and stuff.
Going back to what you were saying about the mediums and whatever, spirit cannot reincarnate. The souls reincarnate. The spirit doesn't. However, because the spirit is a corruption of the soul, right? Those dark, demonic, satanic, spiritual forces, which are not natural and native to our universe, those demonic ones can possess, but they can't do what the soul does. That's how they control us. Everybody.
It is strange, because somebody asked me one day, they said, when do you think a soul inhabits the body? And I said, when you're born. And then lately we've had these conversations. James said, well, when your mother is pregnant with you, you kind of die to be born into this world because you're living in a totally different environment in her stomach. You're like an amphibian in there. Then that is cut, so you kind of die, and then you're reborn again into this world.
At the moment of conception, which is replicated, a replication of the Big Bang, at the moment of conception, the soul enters the female body at the moment of conception, and from the soul, the spirit grows, and a new spirit for that incarnation. The soul and the spirit are two different things.
So what happens when a baby dies, when the mother's pregnant then? It just didn't want to be here.
Well, that's not necessarily as simple as that. Babies are dying all the time now because of, in the present thing, the jab, this, that and the other. Some lives or some souls just come back here, not only for their own personal journey, but also to help another on their personal journey. So if a mother, my ex-wife, lost one of our children, our first child, she miscarried, this, that and the other. My mum lost her first child, miscarried. And I've had a message from my sister, and it was wonderful, because one and only message I've ever had from her, but that's another story. But, you know, the soul comes into the woman's body at the moment of conception, the Big Bang, when that sperm hits the egg and boom, that's, you know, a replication of the universe, as it were, as we know it, right? And then from that soul, a spirit is developed for that life, physical life. The spirit only knows what that incarnation is unless the soul experiences something of an awareness. Other than that, we're guided by, to a greater or lesser degree, our intuition. As we grow, I'm talking about as we grow now and live, say, 3 school year and 10, you have an option. When the soul comes back, generally it's restored to factory settings with no knowledge. If the soul starts to remember, it will help the spirit of that incarnation live a much better incarnation, as you've expressed here with yourself, because you're empathic and this, that and the other. On a soul level, you're waking up, and so your spiritual self has far more control than what most people's do, that watch the telly and this, that and the other, and pay no attention to life. Deep subject, but you know, it's something that most people, certainly in the spiritualist movement, have no great awareness of. You know, they're very blinkered and controlled in their perceptions and their awarenesses, and most of them, I always remember this, I'll never forget this. I stopped my church in '89, and I think it was a year or so later, me and my mum, I took my mum to an evening of clairvoyance, and the medium there, who I knew, during the demonstration of clairvoyance, went to my mum and said, I've got your father here. And my mum said, oh, I don't want to talk to him, tell him to go away. And the medium said, you can't talk to him like that, he's spirit. So I said to her, and what the hell do you think he was when he was here? He was spirit in a physical body. I said, he hasn't suddenly become the Archangel Gabriel or the Oracle of Delphi because he's cut the mortal cord. He was a fecking arsehole. My grandfather was. And he's aware of that now. he was aware of it before he went, because I told him, and he agreed
Do you
with me.
believe
But
that we decide the other side what we're going to do here, and you know, if things go wrong here and people are horrible and do nasty things, that you've already decided this before you've come here? That's what some say.
very, 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 very few. The rest of us are forced back here without our consent, through our fear, ignorance, compliance and apathy, at the end of the mortal...
What do you mean forced here? Because, you know, I remember watching a Doris Stoke one. She said, we've come here to save the world. There's 3 lots of you, you know, like... You've got those that are just here who are awake. Then you've got those that are like transmitters. And she was going, this is probably about in the 80s or 90s before she died, but she was going, the young ones are the ones that are going to save the world. Do you believe it's a bit like that?
I don't believe anything. And let me tell you something about Doris. You know,
she wasn't right, was she? Oh, no.
She was a lovely person. But I remember reading in her books and watching videos of her when she spoke to people in the audience, and she was bringing her loved one, and she'd say, they're sitting up there having a cup of tea now, you know, just the same as they was here. And they are. She's bloody right. Because you are today what you will be tomorrow. What I mean is, if you leave here now, you will be that now, tomorrow, in the other reality. You'll have the same fears and this and the other. Your spirit of that incarnation, the spirit goes one way, the soul goes another, restored to factory settings, but a few do come back with some memory at birth, or with the ability to remember. That's
sounds like it's one of those films, doesn't it? You know, when all those memories, they were implanted in me?
Bridie Murphy.
Logan's Run sort of thing, or there was one with Ewan McGregor where he's got these memories, and then he realises things aren't right, and they're clones for the other people. If they die, then they just take bits of... Well, if they become ill, they take their bodies.
Yeah.
And then he woke up. But I'm just saying, it's like, we watch that as a film, and in reality, it is something like that.
Yeah, it is. It is. It really is. And I wouldn't have said this maybe 5 years ago, certainly not 10, and certainly not 40 years ago I wouldn't have said this. But only because of developing an ongoing conscious awakening and awareness that I personally am able to talk this way. But I see the spirit world for what it is, merely an extension of this prison planet without the physical body. You know, it's only when you come to conscious awareness and awakening on a soul level, then you really do start to see things as they really are. You know, the spirit awakening is wonderful. The spiritual awakening is wonderful. But if you don't go any further than that, it's bloody pointless having that awakening in the first place. You've got to transcend the
But you know what? For those that are waking up, and like empaths and that, it really does feel like we're here to help people.
Of course we are. Of course we are. You know, everything I do for you and do for everybody else. You know, the messages I personally share are not just for me, to help me, but they're for others, and I know I'm not alone. But so many seek to try and do what the likes of us do, but in order to benefit themselves, either certainly materially, you know, you know, and it does gripe me when
I actually feel that, you know, like, say I went to church, the reverend there, he said, you've got gifts, but they don't work with money. They don't work in a monetary thing at all.
No. In the short term they do, because people can acquire all this lovely wealth and possessions, this, that, and the other. But like you say, you can't take it with you. And if you can't see through the illusion of money, you'll never see through the illusion of death.
It's so strange, isn't it? We've got all these governments and crap and media and all that, and they're all trundling along. They don't, I mean, I don't know if they could ever do it, but they're not discussing all the other things like death and birth and stuff like that, are they? Which is really going on, but we're living in this place that's just trundling on like a train.
Yeah.
Don't think, don't look out the window.
I said in, not this upload I've just done today, but the last upload I think it was, we live in a revolution, and a revolution is merely following the same circular path. We got to break that path. The real revolution is breaking that path, so the revolution of the mind and stopping the infinite cycles that perpetually harvest our energy, frequency and vibration.
Yes. Is that your video, Do Something and Be Someone?
Yeah, I think it was in that I spoke about that, yeah.
Yeah, you have to live for others if you want to live for yourself.
Yeah, you do. Everything starts with the self, and once, you start to realise that, learn to love yourself, respect yourself, and all these things, you then can, with all humility and integrity, project them out into others and whatever. Once you start to become awakening and aware, you can share that knowledge, whatever, with others. We're all connected. There is no separation.
We're all in this shift together.
Yeah, I've done. That was another upload I've done.
Yeah, I'm looking at the words. It said most people think they are putting up with a temporary inconvenience without realising they're being led into permanent slavery.
Well, we're in permanent slavery. We have been in permanent slavery for at least 6,022 years, but probably for millennia upon millennia upon millennia, for eons of time. And like I say, if we were ever going to be saved...
Is this a very important time right now then, Bazz? Because, why are we... I mean, sometimes I think life's so strange. What was it? We're just supposed to have children and then a few years later we die. Doesn't sound very exciting, does it?
Well, no, and all that concept is for is to perpetuate the system that enslaves us. Because, as the Matrix says, you're a battery. Your energy, frequency and vibration is being harvested over not just this incarnation, but every other incarnation you had and what you're going to have.
That's what I'm saying. It's not that suddenly we think, oh, I've really got it now, and then suddenly think, oh, I'm got to go now. It's not like that, is it?
No, it isn't. It's no good one of us getting it and nobody else getting it. It's no good all of us but one getting it and that one not getting it. We've all got to get it. Nobody can be free until we are all free. No one person can be free. They might think they're free, like I think I'm free to a greater or lesser degree.
To me, it's like all those years they told us about like Russia and stuff like that. I mean, you know how they bombarded, especially the UK, about Russia and the Cold War with Russia and America. And me and Amy did a video and we found this stuff to say that while they're telling the world they're in a Cold War, America and Russia are doing military sorties together, which wouldn't happen if they were kind of almost at war.
No.
And it goes on like that. So nothing is what you think it is. And once you find this stuff, there's just no excuses anymore. Just...
You know what leaders are worth listening to? And we generally only listen to them after they've gone, after they've been killed. Gaddafi and Hussein, they were worth listening to. They wasn't perfect, but they were worth listening to, and that's why they got killed. Because they don't want you listening to
But I'm never sure whether that's all just one big program waiting to explode. Like when you put on the television and the news and that, you've just got like 25 soap operas all together. Because, you know, some people get into the news and like the newsreader, and it goes on and on like that. I don't know, it's just, to me, it's all been what, because I've just said, you know, if you had a choice which leader, it'd probably be Putin. I'd rather have, I wouldn't want Biden or Boris there. I'd pick Putin. But he's part of the game. They're all part of the game.
Of course, I don't want a leader. I want to lead myself.
Yeah, that's good. Hey, you do lead yourself.
Yeah, you know, I'm not waiting for Christ to lead me. It gives me the tools.
Yes, that is the thing that, you know, somebody in the past, they said they needed their Bible. That's how it got through the day. They need that book. And then,
yeah, but
you know, they need that person. You're always waiting for something else. You need to do it yourself.
Of course. You know, that's what, you know, when people say, I follow Jesus, he didn't ask you to follow him. He said, as I do, you can do also far greater things.
There is one sentence I like, Medium. I read it in a book. It was called Winds of Change. It said, Jesus, if he'd come, it was so that we could be more like him. But churches, you can't touch him at all, can you?
No. And, you know, I don't know about
so why can't we be more like, if that's the whole point, that's why it's the Jesus consciousness, isn't it? Why can't we be more like him? Why is it he's up there like with a picture and a cross and all that, and you're not allowed to touch him, you can't be anything like him? It's ridiculous, isn't it? When his whole point was he came here so we could be more like him, if that's the case.
Yeah, but the system tells you that you can't. And most people in the system believe that, so they're just waiting for him to come back. He won't come back. You know, Mithra never come back. Mithra was only here once, and all the others...
I mean, have we been sent to try and get... Because a Medium book, again, it was like, we've got stuck on the Jesus. Or maybe it was one of my books up there, Little Light on Ascension. We've got stuck with Jesus. We have to sort of get rid of him and move on now to the next one.
Well, the next one will be here in about 138 years' time. That's when Aquarius, you know, we go every 2,160 years. The next one will be here. I mean, you won't see it, but another 138 years' time, the next one will bring in another procession of the equinoxes.
Yeah, we're not even here for that long, and we're being bombarded by them every day. So that's what's been happening, is that they took control of everything. They shut the whole world down. We're being bombarded every day. They need to, you know, they need to be the smallest part in your life. And for a lot of people, it's the biggest part of their life.
Yeah.
I've heard loads of people say, oh, we've got to do that because the government said. The government said. So people believe in them.
Again, you've made a point that, you know, proves how well the program works, you know, govern.
That's the whole thing. That was the other thing, is they've been showing us all those videos of Russia and saying how badly the Russians treated everybody in their communist world. But what they forgot to say was, but we're doing exactly the same to you, except they were deprived and you've got debt instead. That's the difference. But they've done the same thing to us. Until people wake up and realise that, I've done the same to... It is doing the same to everyone. And like Sven, he said, in England they can use the royal family. In America it's Hollywood. And each country they use their bit to get it to the people.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. There's, you know, all roads lead to Rome, and
unfortunately, you know, in that bit. But we've been going for an hour and 14 minutes. Do you want to go for a little bit longer, or do you think that's enough?
I need to certainly have a comfort break.
We can finish now. We'll have another one soon. Don't worry about that. It's been a pleasure. I know that you're a very deep person, and I think you're very, you know, I noticed that because you've thought about a lot of things. You're very articulate about what you say and everything. And yeah, that's why you've got such good subs on BitChute.
Well, I tried to keep it simple, my language simple, in a way that others, and that's not being condescending or pretentious to others. I see so many people using bloody great high-fluted words, this, that, and the other. And if I do use them, then I'll try to give the etymology of that word, and whatever. But I try to keep my language on a level that everybody can understand, because simplicity is essential, I think, to understand, the Matrix, the program, and everything else. But before we do go, I would just like to mention that every Saturday, a very good friend of mine, a couple of friends of mine, Drew and Sharon, they host run a cafe for 5 hours on a Saturday up at Sheerness, the Klondike Cafe. Look on my channel for the upload about that, where like-minded people can come together and sit and talk in person, and...
Yes, that's the thing. We just don't do it enough, do we?
That's right.
Television becomes the object that everybody's watching, and families don't talk to each other enough, so it's good. Talking's good.
I believe so. The last 2 weeks I've been going.
How do we learn?
Exactly. We learn by going within, and then we share that learning, with others, and they share their learning with us, and that's how we grow.
Anyway, yes, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your insight. We've only just scratched the surface. That's what happens. We get into a hangout, scratch the surface, and then we've got to finish. But it's better to scratch the surface, isn't it?
Yeah, and I thoroughly enjoyed it like I did the first time, and thank you very much for inviting me onto your channel.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure, and thank you for saying yes.
Anytime.
Okay, we will finish this hangout, but don't go. We'll say goodbye off air. But Bazz, chat room, thank you very much. I love these talks because I actually feel it's all to do with you, and it's very psychological. And a lot of people don't even get that far because they don't realise they're just watching the television, aren't they?
I think I told you in the last one. Television was invented by John Logie Baird, and one of the components he used was a thing called the spirit tube. And if you look up the spirit tube, I can't remember if it's Oliver Lodge or Sir William Crookes that developed it in order to communicate with realities beyond the third dimension. But the spirit tube, and spirit has the ability to be demonic. So that's enough said about the television, I think.
Yeah, it's that nasty thing. Well, it's called television. But anyway, Bazz, thank you so much. And
thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
May abundance be with you and your family.
And yours too. Thank you.